Are we okay? We got to fucking... We've got to do the fucking shit that we for fucking drug abuse. No! Are you listening?
Sean here. I've been talking to Hank, trying to get him on a Slash stream or Cornwell three-way stream. But there is an issue, and I totally understand it. He's a father and a grandfather. He doesn't want his voice or his name associated with this raging pedophile. It's not so much the community, but he lives a nice country life, and I totally get it. I use my real name on here because even if I didn't, there are a lot of people out there who know my voice because I was a ring announcer and a radio host, and at some point my face is going to appear on stream, but I can understand him being hesitant or not wanting to at all, and I'm still grateful to him for what he's doing. He didn't have to share, he didn't, but he did, and I really appreciate it. When Lorne works himself into a frenzy, when he gets himself all worked up, we have touched on this in the past, he starts creating these scenarios. They become a reality if too much time passes. He wants desperately to know if they are real. The words reality check initially applied, it might have been a military term. Basically, it applied to the confirmation that a situation was valid. So Lorne, he needs that validation. These voicemails, we know it's not healthy for him on the phone. He has no business being in a long-distance relationship or a real relationship. Because with a long-distance relationship, because he needs that instant gratification and he needs constant validation, we have talked about the voicemails before and how they are rehearsals. How they are things he's worked up all day, which is why they all sound the same. When you're on the phone with me, when you know I hate him, over and over again. But these voicemails, they are sporadic. These would be the ones where he's spouting these situations out because he's hoping they will call him back and say, no, that's not right. I'm going to give you an example. The one where he called Debbie. Angela's been there all day, and right now he's laying in bed with you watching a movie or something. He needs, and he thinks, if I give them this situation, they will call me, and then will tell me, hey, that's not going on, nothing's happening, you need to calm down. And we know when he's worked himself into a frenzy, he's not going to calm down. He left that pathetic voicemail for Ramona. Call me, please call me. And then she calls him, tell me, go away. And then we get that entire legendary phone call. That's not what I'm talking about. Lorne's phone calls that he leaves for Ramona. Don't worry, girl. I know you want to wrap your lips around that piece of shit's cock. Those voicemails where he's given the situations, the situational voicemails. He wants to know that's not reality. We know that by the time these situations are in his head, no matter what they say, he's going to keep pushing and pushing until he gets the answer that he wants. But these particular voicemails, I have a theory. Lorne growing up would constantly bother his mother, and I use the word constantly because with Lorne, everything is constant. With his mother, he likely gave a bunch of scenarios that she was doing something for the siblings that she wasn't doing with him, or that she was forgiving the siblings behind his back. Everything happens behind his back, at least in his head. Whatever it is, it's going on, and he's not being told about it. There is a certain level of paranoia that comes along with the issues that he has. We know about relationship OCD. We talked about having to be on the phone with people. You know about the three-way calls. He can't keep his mouth shut. No matter what, he's going to pipe in. The only time he didn't was Debbie. When I think it was actually Ember who was voicing the whisper voice of Debbie when Dan called her. But that's a completely different scenario. That was Lorne, and it was Debbie. He didn't have the balls to say it to her face. he had the balls to scream and yell to everybody else because he wanted Debbie to know his frustration, but he didn't want Debbie to hear it in person. She couldn't even talk. That wasn't a reality check for Lorne, though. He was going to leave more screaming and yelling voicemails. But we already talked about that. What we're talking about is what happens from the time that he needs an answer. Remember the voicemail message, I just can't help it. I just can't help it. I have some questions. Because he wants it now. He needs to know that what I'm thinking is not true. If not, that's all he's going to think about. We touched on that, but this is specific to this. When this panic happens, when his chest on the left-hand side is getting tight and he's getting that cold feeling running up and down his body, how do you combat those endorphins? Rage. You need something else to be released. Methadone for heroin. Maybe those phone calls go deeper. Helplessness, abandonment, fear, paranoia, everything that he's dealt with in his life. He's been a disappointment. We all know this. His entire life he's been a disappointment. So all of his behavior comes to the forefront. He knows that they know that behavior is not okay. He knows that he might have driven him into the arms of another man, because we all know a woman has to have a man at all times in Lorne's world, and there has to be sex going on every time they're not on the phone. We talked about the time that Jamie Amy had like an hour and a half or 2 hours between the time she got off the phone with Lorne and went to bed. He doesn't understand that people have lives that don't involve other people because he is so focused on them, because they are all he thinks about. So when he comes up with these scenarios, which again, I apologize for the duplication, we're talking about that feeling he gets, we're talking about the panic, and we're talking about him having to release that rage to combat it. I don't know what they give alcoholics. I do know when you're trying to quit smoking, they will sometimes give you Wellbutrin. That is what I use, Wellbutrin and Nicorette gum. I had been smoking, I think I just picked it up just for the hell of it, right before I went in the Marine Corps. I wanted to hang around with the bad kids. I was tired of being the popular kid. I kind of wanted to hang around with the bad kids when I was in the Marine Corps. It gave us an excuse to sit around, as they called it, and smoking and joking. Well, oh man, I had such a good time in the Marine Corps. Backing up. We're talking about the scenarios and the reality check. If you've ever had a panic attack, and I have, they are brutal. You don't know what's going on at first. The first time it happens, you think you might be having a heart attack, or you think something is terribly wrong with you. But in reality, the stress of life has just gotten to you to the point where you can't deal with it. Lorne is luckily 87, and I don't think his brain functions like the rest of us. We've said that the alcohol helps him with coping with the fact that he's a failure, with what he's done, and his denial. I think he could also be, instead of like Paxil or whatever those serotonin blockers are that they have now, he uses alcohol. He uses alcohol for a lot of things. But I want you to try to put yourself in this situation. Your brain has racing thoughts. Now his 87 racing thoughts is like it's like Pong. One little ball bouncing from one side to the other at a relatively high rate of speed. Well, when that happens, you can't focus, and you need them. Now I need you to tell me now, please help me stop these thoughts. Please help me. I need you to check the reality and let me know. Let me know this isn't happening. Baby, can you at least text me or something? Let me know what's going on. Call me back. Tell me something. Oh man, I love the Raptor Bacon videos. Lorne's head, his brain, it releases that overdose of serotonin, and he doesn't know how to deal with it, and he can feel it coming. Truthfully, when I was having panic attacks, I don't think anyone telling me anything. I was laying on the floor downstairs. I was cold. My body was cold. It was not a happy feeling, not at all. I started going to behavioral medicine, and that's when I discovered, when they sat me down and they started talking to me, that's when I first became interested in my own mental health. They diagnosed me with bipolar 2 and depression, which I know I've had because of the big swings. Lorne has those big swings. Those phone calls where he's going psycho. You can see this. He's going psycho. He's sure that Debbie's in the bed or Debbie's out on a date. He will call back after a couple of hours. Well, the best thing about this, I got to hear your voice. He's still enraged. He's still paranoid. He's still looking for her to call him back, hoping that those voicemails where he's giving these bullshit scenarios are going to prompt her to call him back. Let me put your mind at ease, Lorne. This is not really happening. I know I have brain damage and a concussion, and my throat has been pierced by a swordfish or a saw shark or whatever it was. But I'm going to take the time out, and I'm going to call you and go, Lorne, I don't have time to talk, but all those bullshit scenarios you came up with, I'm going to put your mind at ease. I don't know one woman, any of them that I've talked to in a professional capacity. And by that, I don't mean they're my patients. I mean, speaking to them at work about things that happen at work, sometimes it veers off into their personal life and how it's affecting their work. I can't imagine any of them ever told me, you know, my husband, he calls me all day at work and he's giving me these bullshit scenarios. Lorne at work, he would start to get that feeling. I get it every once in a while with my kids at school, like just a panic attack. As a parent, sometimes you think of these horrible scenarios and how you would get out of them. But with Lorne, he'd be thinking at work on lunch, she's out there boning somebody, and he would need her to call. He would need that reassurance. We talked about that with when relationship OCD, when someone's talking to their family, the other person needing to be on the phone, and those three-way calls. That's Lorne. That's part of the reason he wants those three-way calls. He said he trusted Ramona, but he needed to feel secure. Of course, we know he doesn't know what trust is. So again, Lorne needs reality to be verified for him. If he could, there would be cameras everywhere. He'd be watching their every move. And if they waved wrong at anybody of the opposite sex, possibly to someone he thought was a lesbian, he would question them about it. And they wouldn't be able to go to bed or leave or do anything until he was satisfied with whatever answer he was looking for. And I think they would give him whatever answer he's looking for. But remember, when he's worked himself up to this point and they say, Lorne, I'm not laying in the bed with some guy, we're not having sex. Lorne, it was nothing sexual, it was an accident, talking about tits in your panties, talking about that. Nothing will satisfy him because that paranoia, that panic, he needs validation and verification that his fears were not happening. You can't do that with him. You can't. And there are some of you out there right now listening to this that you may be struggling with it. So here's my advice. Take some classes online. Get one of those online therapists. They're cheap. You can download an app now, I think, where you can have an on-demand therapist. You may not see the same one, but you will see somebody. Woo! I had to hide that burp. You will talk to somebody. And that's what you need, because if you talk to friends and family members, you're going to get what I think Tony told him. Until tonight, when you confirmed what somebody told me. Or maybe it was Ember. But it was his paranoia, and whoever it was just wanted him to shut up about it and was like, yeah, you're probably right. And that to him is confirmation. So, if you are with somebody who's coming up with these scenarios in their head and they just get worse and worse, they need help, or you need to take a class on how to deal with it. You need to take a class on relationship OCD to see if you can help them. Panic is dangerous, and it needs to be handled. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.